23. Both teams now 2-2. An overtime win for the Rams. Weird game. Colts jumped up 23-0. And
a few big comebacks this week.
Yeah, there were a few of these for sure.
So peeling the onion back on our weird weekends of things, the organizer, the scheduler for the Cincinnati Girls Soccer League is on like a one-person mission to ruin my life this year. All of the games seem to have been scheduled during the NFL slate, right? So I have to keep watching the world happen on like a 3-hour delay. It's just a pain in the ass.
You didn't have your phone on the sideline while coaching?
No. So yesterday I'm watching, I get like an hour into the 1 p.m. slate, and then I have to go coach this soccer game, come back, blah, blah. And the way we were working is I had to do some stuff once I got back and then start like catching up on the games. So there were several games that the outcome of which made no sense whatsoever based off where I left when I left the game, and this was one of them. It's like the Rams were winning this comfortably. I get back, like, what? How the hell is that game in overtime? Made no sense.
Because they came back from 23-0, including they needed 2 2-point conversions to make that all happen. And then in overtime, it was Puka time, baby.
Well, not just overtime. It was Puka time.
I mean, the entire game. It was all Puka Nacua.
It took him 5 minutes to end up with the most catches all time through 4 games, and 5 minutes into his 4th game, which was that. So that overtook Anquan Bolden. He now has 9 more catches than anybody in NFL history through the first 4 games.
I can't even use 17-game schedule against him.
Nope, can't.
It's just first 4. Puka ends up with 9 catches for 163, including the walk-off winner. Man, that dude's been incredible.
He really has. And I don't think, I looked at this before, he's not going to get just completely marginalized once Cooper Kupp gets back. Like, they could coexist in the same offense. He is much more, in terms of deployment and usage, he's much more along the lines of what Robert Woods was doing in that offense when he and Cooper Kupp were cooking than he is what Cooper Kupp is doing. Like, it actually, I think, complements him for Cooper Kupp to return rather than, now I'm sure it'll take some of the production away just because he's like the only target right now, but I don't think he just disappears once Cooper Kupp returns.
We're going to start promoting this a little bit more soon, but just want to highlight Puka Nacua. We have player tracking data for games for college using computer vision, so basically replicating what NGS has.
So not the chip in the shoulder.
Not the chip in the shoulder, but we use computer vision technology. And not only do you get top speeds and all those fun stuff, all those fun things you see from NGS, but we've created our own athleticism score. And Puka was like a 92nd, 93rd percentile athlete using game speeds, using game movement. And so because he's doing great, we will promote the heck out of that. Right? That's just how it works.
That is.
It is not always a one-to-one correlation, but it's interesting because Tutu Atwell also was similar. And you can actually see the Rams, who may or may not have had this data for a few years. You can see how maybe a few teams lean into that. So, again, I'm not saying it works all the time, but it was just interesting number to see that Puka's game speed, game athleticism, way better than his testing numbers. And that was the story on Cooper Kupp for a while, was that, hey, the Rams knew something. They knew he played faster. Puka absolutely plays faster than whatever he did at the Combine.
Yeah, that one, the Cooper Kupp one, was really obvious. There were plays, obviously he was playing at a lower level of competition, but like he torched Oregon when they faced them, for some absurd number of yards and like outran half the defense while doing it. Like, Kupp's play speed was quite obviously better than whatever he tested at the Combine, which is like a 4.6 something, right?
So, yes, exactly. Great job by Puka. Stafford, pretty clean game other than the pick. Once again, I think it's interesting seeing Stafford in this offense, maybe rejuvenated without Cooper Kupp. And they weren't under, again, the pregame matchup deal. Indianapolis was coming off a game where their defensive front was outstanding. And it looked like they might have a mismatch against the Rams, and they didn't at all. The Rams, I don't know when the Rams' offensive line is going to, outperform, but this was one of those games.
The Rams, to me, are going to be this team this year where I don't have any idea what you're going to get in a given week. Now, I didn't even know what you were going to get. Like, even within this game, it went in either direction, right?
Sure.
The first half, they looked like, what the hell, where did this come from? And then the second half, like, okay, this looks a bit more like, but that offensive line generally held up pretty well. Joe Noteboom wasn't good. Everybody else was fine. And if that happens, that's more than workable. But then you get games like that Cincinnati game where the entire offensive line is overwhelmed. You're like, yeah, this makes more sense given the personnel that they have on paper. And going up against the Colts, you would have thought that was kind of how this game was going to go, and it really didn't. Like that offensive line held up. And when it does, I think Stafford is playing really well. Stafford might be playing as well as he's ever played in his career right now. It's just that the circumstances around him aren't as good. Like his receivers are Puka Nacua and Tutu Atwell, basically the end, and his offensive line is one of the worst he's had, and it's still somehow working okay because he's absolutely dealing.
One more note for the Rams. I'll say it before you did. Aaron Donald was back, baby. Aaron Donald was pretty dominant again.
Second week in a row.
One thing that occurred after we recorded was Blake Freeland was announced as the starting left tackle for the Colts in place of Bernard Ryman. Freeland was a guy that I touted as a developmental tackle because he fell into the category the model says yes, but my heart is saying no.
But my eyes say what the hell is happening?
My eyes and my heart are saying no. So then I split the middle and said, Blake Freeland, give him a couple years to bulk up because he's just skinny right now. Great athlete. He's just skinny, can't handle power. Well, the Rams went and put Aaron Donald over him multiple times. And left tackle Blake Freeland did not handle that very well. So Aaron Donald also whooped Quentin Nelson a few times. Like Donald had a huge game as far as disruption goes. Best he's had all season. But Blake Freeland's not ready, I guess is the point.
It's funny, though, how did you see Aaron Donald essentially campaigning for the sack? So he ends up with, it's going to be like 8 pressures, only one of which was a sack. And it was like a pretty clean win. He's coming, he's attacking from behind Anthony Richardson, grabs hold of him, and sort of, it's one of these ones where he doesn't like cleanly get him, like grabs him around, sort of slips down, keeps hold of an ankle, rolls a little bit. Richardson goes down whilst falling forward, trying to run away from him, and sort of, stumbling, bumbling, bouncing towards the line of scrimmage, eventually goes down. And Donald is like, definitely down before the line. Like, that's definitely a sack. It was almost not a sack, but it's definitely a sack. It's funny, like, these players know the difference that makes in, like, perception, right? If I get this game that's just pure dominance start to finish, and there's a 0 next to the sack column, people are going to think I sucked.
Which is stupid. But,
yes.
And there's incentives tied to it.
That's
8 sacks,
right.
10 sacks, 12 sacks. There's incentives tied to it as well, which is also stupid. But anyway. That goes to Anthony Richardson. I think one of his biggest strengths coming out of Florida was sack avoidance. And in a game like this where he was under heavy pressure quite a bit, he only got sacked officially twice for -4 yards. There was a negated play in there that was a very close fumble, near interception. It was initially ruled a fumble on the field, got negated by a defensive hold. But Richardson did a great job, I thought, avoiding some of those negative plays and then coming up with some of the spectacular. With Aaron Donald taking him down, he's able to turn that into a 35-yard completion to Alec Pierce. The result of that may have been a little lucky, but the ability to throw the ball 38 yards down the field while in the grasp. There was a rollout, beautiful pass that he threw to Mo Alley Cox.
That was the touchdown that started the whole thing.
So the 35-yarder, right?
Really nice
Which
play.
Was, there was, you saw more glimpses, I think, of what Anthony Richardson can become here in his 3rd NFL start.
You can see he's one of those quarterbacks that has that kind of arm where multiple times in a game, you sort of see that he can do things other people can't, right? Like that throw to Mo Alley Cox. It's not that the throw itself, just in terms of like start point to finish point, is particularly special, but when you look at how he threw it, sort of rolling that way and almost falling down at the time, like that's not a platform to make a throw from, and yet he's able to just like flick it out there like it's nothing. There were multiple plays in this game where he's able to make a throw that you're like, there's a bunch of quarterbacks that just don't have a shot at making that play, or if they do, it's where it lofts and gets into trouble. Justin Herbert's got that, Mahomes has got that, Josh Allen's got that. There's a lot of quarterbacks, but that separates those guys from normal humans that simply can't make those plays.
One point that's just more fun than anything. Michael Hoyt, is that how you pronounce his name?
Yes.
Hoyt for the Rams.
Wild pronunciation given the spelling.
The edge
of that
defender from Brown. He's listed at 3'4", 310. He was in coverage on that Mo Alley Cox touchdown. 310 pounds. Now, this isn't rare for him. He's dropped into coverage 52 times this year. The Rams are actively putting Michael Hoyt, 310-pounder.
What does he actually weigh, though? There's no way, like, because they sort of slimmed him down to play on the edge. I don't think he still weighs 310.
Maybe the list weight's off, but it was fun because he's down the field in coverage against a 270-pound tight end and Mo Alley Cox.
Yeah, another thing that was kind of funny. So Kenny Moore made one really nice play, I think, in coverage, and then almost immediately, so the touchdown to Puka Nacua, he tried to call like a switch, like after the snap. Okay, look.
It was a coverage bust, yeah.
Yeah, it was a coverage bust. But the reason it was a coverage bust was because Kenny Moore tried to, like, switch off after the ball had been snapped. Like, you know, there are times where there's going to be a switch release or a stack formation or whatever, and the DBs have to communicate, like, what are we going to do? No, change, you know, and, like, switch the coverage assignments. But they do that before the ball is snapped so that everyone has a chance to get on the same page. You can't really do it after the ball snapped. The dude inside you thinks something else happened. You're like, no, change. And then he doesn't change because he's dealing with a receiver. I mean, that was a flaw for a guy that was as veteran savvy, you know, with as much experience as Kenny Moore. That's quite the mistake.
And that ended up being the game.
Yeah.
That was it. Anything else on this game? I think overall, solid performance from Anthony Richardson and the Rams. I think you're right. They might be tough to predict, right? This youth movement, and I think they ended up winning, but it was a weird, you know, tale of two games type of deal. But a good Stafford, the young receivers, a dominant Donald, all that can add up to wins on any given week for the Rams.